Lots of sunshine. It is 81 degrees. The stock market is closed for today for Good Friday, but when we ended the trading week, the Dow was up 65 points at 17,763. The S&P finished the week up 7 points at 2,067, while the NASDAQ was up 7 at 4887. Reporting for Money Radio, I'm Ken Morgan.
The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Roth, and you are listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. We're a weekly show found right here on Money Radio, KFNN, 1510 AM, 99.3 FM. Happy Friday. And today is a day that I want to concentrate and focus in on talking about a aging illness that is affecting so many in our society and certainly here in our community, and that is dementia and Alzheimer's. And I've had a number of guests here to talk about that, specifically guests from Sun Health in Banner. I've been privileged to have Dr. Pierre Theriault, Dr. Marwan Sabah, I had Dr. Jessica Langbaum on, and I've also had Jan Doherty from the Banner Alzheimer's Institute. And today's no different. I'm privileged to have in the studio with us, I've got Lori Nisson from Banner Sun Health Research Institute. And she is working with families to assess and assist them in dealing with this horrible disease. And this disease, I know I've shared it with our audience. I want to just share it again. It is affecting today over 5 million people. 5 million Americans are living with this. It's actually 5.2 million, and it's costing our economy $214 billion. And we're looking at a pandemic, as Dr. Pierre Theriault shared with us, because by 2050, we're looking at 16 million Americans that potentially can have this disease, and it's going to cost our economy over $1.2 trillion. And we are very fortunate here in the Phoenix community because we have a number of resources, and not every community has these types of resources. But we have got the Banner Alzheimer's Institute, we've got the Banner Sun Health Research Institute, we've got the Alzheimer's Consortium that exists here. So not only do we have great research that is being done with Big Pharma, but we also have a new model of care that is being delivered through the Banner system. So with that, I want to introduce to our audience today, Lori Nisson. Hi, Lori.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Welcome to our show. And I wanted, Lori, you and I have known one another for a number of years, and you have been working in the behavioral health area for about 20 years. And your concentration has been in the dementia, Alzheimer's area. And you have seen a lot happen in just the 20 years. And I wanted to just ask you and just come out and talk to you just to say hope. Is there hope for these families? Because, gosh, I see what it does to them. And I know you see them. You see what it does to them.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's hope from a research perspective in looking at Alzheimer's and other dementias and how do we slow the progression, how do we delay the onset, how do we eradicate the disease before it even strikes. But from a practical sense, we do have, as you said, more than 5 million Americans who are suffering with Alzheimer's and other dementias, and many other families as well who are really trying to cope. We have over 120,000 Arizonans who are coping with Alzheimer's or another dementia. And so from that perspective, really the work that I do is to be able to work with people who are diagnosed with Alzheimer's and other dementias, as well as their families and care partners, to really help them, use a disease management model to, cope with day-to-day living. Because absolutely we need to improve the quality of people's lives while they're living and teach them the strategies how to better manage everyday life.
One of the things that we talked about before the show, and you and we had some prep just before, and that was just really the lack of awareness, versus the denial and dementia. And we've got a lot of people that have dementia, and they just don't really understand what it is.
Absolutely, and I think, our logical reaction is to think, mom or dad is denial. I get families who call me and say, Lori, the neurologist that's treating my mom gave her a very clear diagnosis of Alzheimer's, dementia, and she refuses to acknowledge it, and I need for you to sit down and explain and get her to understand and accept that she has this disease. And I say to myself, well, that's such a great idea, but it's never going to work.
It's a very, very difficult task.
Absolutely. And it's not really that the person with dementia is in denial, the denial, Bob, that we think about with someone who maybe has a substance abuse disorder where they're drinking a lot of alcohol and hiding the beer bottles and telling people around them that they really don't drink that much and everything's fine. This is really more of a lack of awareness. And, when I got more interested in the topic, I really started doing research around the idea of denial, which we see, as I said, in substance abuse and addiction, versus lack of awareness, which we see with certain mental health diseases, in particular Alzheimer's disease that affects the brain. And so as the brain cells are deteriorating, what happens is the frontal lobe is affected. And so our ability to have insight and reason is affected by Alzheimer's disease. So it's not necessarily that people are in denial of the disease. It's really that they don't realize they have it. And so that makes the job of families who are trying to provide support, extra care, put in safety measures for somebody who's losing their memory and really needs support and supervision, a huge challenge, because the person with the memory disorder is not aware of their disorder and their need for help.
I want our listening audience to hear that and listen to that message, because you're absolutely right. It's not the denial piece. It's coming to terms with what they have and what they're afflicted with. And there are lots of family members out there that see these signs, but they don't know where to turn.
Absolutely. And they want to take a very logical approach, which is kind of how we live, right?
Yeah.
So if you had, an illness like cancer, I'd sit you down and I'd give you your diagnosis and I'd tell you what the steps were and what you needed to do next for your care. But if you have dementia and you don't believe that there's any kind of problem, that makes the process completely different. And so families have to learn communication and strategies on how to communicate effectively with somebody who's not aware of their own deficits. And that's a difficult process.
It is a difficult process, and that is why we are very fortunate here in our community to have Banner Sun Health Research Institute and Banner Alzheimer's Institute. That's a great resource for the families to go to seek those answers and to seek how to best deal with the situation at hand.
Absolutely, because these are long diseases. So Alzheimer's is just one type of dementia, but we know that the course of the disease can run, anywhere from 3 to 20 years, with the average being about 8 or 10. So that's a long disease process, and there's a long, slow progression. And so, where it is really important for, a specialty provider to make a clear diagnosis, whether it's a neurologist or a psychiatrist or, a nurse practitioner who specializes to really make a clear diagnosis, people need more than a diagnosis.
Right. And we're going to talk about other things other tools that they can develop and utilize once they do have that diagnosis. You're listening to Health Futures. I've got Lori Nisson in the house from Banner Sun Health Research Institute. It's a Good Friday today, Lori.
Absolutely.
And we're going to come back right after we hear from our sponsors.
Hi, I'm Phil Grandy of philsgang.com. You know, a lot of people are afraid of the stock market after losing most of their money in the different crashes, but now you don't have to be fearful because we have technology that will tell you when the markets are ready to collapse. That's right, the PT2. I designed it so that we get information in advance of any correction, the smallest correction to the largest correction. Get my PT2. Make sure this time when you are investing that you have safety on your side.
Find out more at philsgang.com or call 877-600-4264.
Hi, I'm Phil Grandy at philsgang.com. Fear. Everybody's fearful to get back in the stock market. Replace that fear with online education in options, stocks. Also supported by the greatest technology, trading platform, our PT1 chart, our PT2 chart. That's what you replace your fear with. Join the thousands of people who have already done that here at philsgang.com.
Isn't it time you reduce your fear of investing? Find out more at philsgang.com or call 877-600-4264.
Attention boomers and retirees. Call Anil Vazirani and Secured Financial Solutions at 800-957-5604 extension 200 to learn about an asset allocation strategy that encompasses up to 50 dividend-paying stocks, up to 10 exchange-traded funds in different sectors of our market, up to 12 high-yield corporate bonds, and the principal-protected low-cost new generation annuity to ensure a potentially secure retirement. 800-957-5604 and dial extension 200 to set up your complimentary strategy session with Anil Vazirani and Secured Financial Solutions, or go online at www.theripa.com. That's 800-957-5604 extension 200. Call today. Please read prospectus for risks, fees, and charges. Investment advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Kubota, driven by perfectionists. Get some perfection in your world with compact tractors, zero-turn mowers, and diesel utility vehicles from Kubota. Find your local Kubota dealer at Kubota.com.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Roth, and you are listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. We're up on our second segment, and I've got Lori Nisson in the house, right here in the Money Radio studios, and we are talking about Alzheimer's. And Lori is with the Banner Sun Health Research Institute, and we left off talking about really the lack of awareness and the denial in dementia, and somebody having this this disease and the spectrum of it. I mean, it's amazing that it can last up to 20 years, and how important it is, Lori, to get that early diagnosis. And it's important in terms of the way you create the caregiving spectrum, or the caregiving resources, if you would. But also, when I talk about hope, there's hope with Sun Health Banner Research Institute and Banner Alzheimer's Institute, because they might qualify for a clinical trial. And while you guys make it very, very clear that this isn't a cure, and this is going to maybe help future generations, it does give that hope to delay that onset.
Absolutely. We want to have hope for the future, and we want to help support you through the journey that you and your family members are coping with now with the diagnosis.
You know, one of the things that we left off, too, is talking about how can the family member or caregiver convince that person that they need the help and supervision as their memory fades. And, you know, I'm looking for tips from you, Lori. You know, I know people are listening in on our show, and they may think that their loved one might be afflicted with some type of dementia or Alzheimer's, or they may already know this. So if you could give us some tips, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, it's really unique in that, you know, people who have a diagnosable dementia, Alzheimer's we know is the most common type, people deserve to have a diagnosis. But their acceptance of that diagnosis is not as important as you would think it would be. So if we tell a family member, a loved one, the doctor says, hey, you've got Alzheimer's disease, you're in the early stages and you're going to progress and you're going to need more help. If the person can't hear, understand, or just has lack of awareness or insight into their diagnosis, that's okay. So our job as family members is not to push a diagnosis or confront that person, because it's just going to lead to resistance. And our job as family members is to always align with the person with the memory disorder. We always want to be on their side. We can make other people the bad guy, but we want to be on their side. And so acceptance isn't important. So we want to avoid confronting that person. We want to focus on the strengths they still have, right? Because people have a lot of strengths and we tend to get focused on the things we can't do. And then we want to just try to implement some supports so that they can still function as independently as possible, depending where they are in the disease process, with supports along the way. And so it affects the way we communicate. So if we were looking at a gentleman who was living at his home independently and he really needed some caregivers, say from Cypress, and he was not willing to have those caregivers in the house, and says, I really don't need them. My wife's here, and the wife, really needs to get out to her leisure. She has doctor's appointments. She has some things to take care of because she's taken on a lot of the responsibilities that her husband can no longer manage. Then we might have her kind of shift or frame what she is needing in a different way. So instead of saying, hey, John, we need a caregiver here to babysit you because you can't be left alone, that would be very offensive, right?
Absolutely.
John is a gentleman who's had a great career, raised a great family. We want to treat him with respect and dignity. So instead, we might be saying something like, John, Elaine needs to get out today, but she'd really like to have an assistant in the house to spend some time with you. And again, if he balks, we're not going to be punitive. We're not going to be confrontational. We're not going to be aggressive. We might just say, hey, I'd feel better if someone was with you for a few hours. So just humor me. So I think the gentler, more empathic, softer approaches are going to lead to a much more successful outcome.
As you talked about Cypress, and for our listening audience, you guys have been listening in on Health Futures for about 16 months now. We're an employer-based agency, been here for 21 years, and what you just described is typical for us because we typically go in, and if it's not coached and counseled as you just described, and it is viewed more as a babysitter, oh boy, do we run into resistance. I mean, we're constantly running into that resistance from that care recipient because they don't think they need any care.
Absolutely, and they're just not aware of their deficits.
Right.
And so family members say to me, my mom's always been stubborn and she's manipulative and she's trying to be difficult. Maybe in the past. But now she has a brain disease that's affecting her ability to be rational and reasonable. And so we have to understand that. And once we understand that, we get away from the power struggle and we try to use empathy and support because, that's what we would want, right? If we had a memory disorder and we needed care, we'd want people to be gentle and respectful. And often people say, Lori, with dementia, sometimes people's behaviors are childlike. The person with dementia acts childlike. They're angry. They throw a tantrum. They're upset. And that's because of a brain disease. But we don't want to infantilize or treat that person with anything but dignity and respect. And so we have to use a gentle approach. And we have to, kind of go in the back door and make things more comfortable for that person so they can accept it.
And, this is why, and I want the listening audience to hear this. This is why you need, if you're dealing with this as a family, to seek assistance. Because family members cannot do this, Lori.
And it puts families in a very tough predicament, right? Because mom or dad has always been the patriarch and the matriarch. They're the ones who make decisions. And mom or dad who now has a memory disorder and needs support, things are falling apart at home. They're not taking their medication on time. They're driving to the local grocery store, but we're wondering, when are they going to get lost? And so we're waiting for a crisis to happen. So instead of waiting, we have to start implementing supports before we wait for that person to accept their need for care. Because if we wait for them to accept or understand that they have this devastating disease and really need help, they'll never get help and we'll end up in a crisis.
Absolutely. And, it's interesting because, as you described, we don't want to wait for that crisis to happen, but oftentimes the parent, the aging parent that has this disorder, they if they're confronted by their family member and their loved one, they still see that son or daughter as a 12-year-old. Mm-hmm. And they look at them saying, hey, you don't know what you're talking about. So that's why I'm suggesting to our listening audience that you seek help. Absolutely. And being a family member for somebody who has a memory disorder is, a very difficult journey. I mean, there's a lot of grief that goes along in watching that person's abilities decline. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of responsibility put on the spouse or the adult child, to take over many responsibilities and to supervise care and implement things that the person with dementia maybe doesn't want. And they're often, met with a lot of resistance and anger. And so, getting a diagnosis from, a healthcare provider is the first step. But the reason we provide family and community services at Banner Sun Health Research Institute and Banner Alzheimer's Institute is because we recognize that these are the everyday challenges that people face. And you don't have the tools to manage those things on your own, right? You need a support group, people around you to help support you through the process and give you tips about things that worked for them when they were dealing with their loved one who needed more help or care. You need, a professional counselor or a social worker who can help you process your own feelings of grief and also kind of teach you some strategies for communication so that every time you meet with your spouse who has dementia and try to talk about these issues, or your parent, you're not getting in some kind of battle or fight and walking away feeling sad but not having accomplished the goal, which is to get that person the support they need. Because the other thing we find, and Bob, you maybe see this as your caregivers go into people's homes and help support them, is that we want to keep that person as independent as possible, right? Because everyone wants independence. Absolutely. But we also have to balance that with safety. And what we notice with people who are living alone, don't have support from family members or from outside professional caregivers, is that they look lost because they're really having a hard time navigating that day-to-day, things like, bathing, dressing, making a meal. Those things are becoming harder. And so they really do need extra support to be able to manage. And once they get that support, they actually look a lot less lost. And it is very hard for the family member, and I'm talking about the spouse and the adult child, to see that loved one, especially one that's widowed or widower, that's a widower, they're home alone. And, they need, and I'm appealing to our audience, you need to get into that loved one's home to make sure that there's food in the fridge, make sure there's no cluttering or hoarding. That environment needs to be safe. It really does. And you really have to break down the steps. You think about the things that we kind of take for granted, and things like, pulling out a rotisserie chicken and preparing a meal, that seems really simple, but when you think about all the steps it takes to get that chicken out of the refrigerator, get it on a plate, put it in a microwave, get it heated up safely, all those things take multiple steps, and somebody with dementia can no longer plan or organize that way. And so they really need the support of other people to be able to maintain, their living situation as independently as possible. Well, we're going to come up on a break right now, but I wanted, when we come back, to really share with our audience on how they can reach you and reach the professionals over at Banner Alzheimer's Institute and Banner Sun Health Research Institute for resources to help their loved ones that are afflicted with this disease. So with that, you are listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I've got Lori Nisson in the house. If you've missed the first segment, you can always catch us on CypressHomeCare.com. Just click on the radio button. We'll be right back.
News. Then we're back with Money Talk. We're Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
A framework for an Iran nuclear deal came yesterday. Today, the White House is selling the idea. Marie Harf of the State Department says this agreement can be enforced.
Anytime we think that Iran is not living up to its commitments, we can certainly snap back sanctions into place.
But Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu is offering some sales resistance.
The deal would legitimize Iran's illegal nuclear program. It would leave Iran with a vast nuclear infrastructure.
Public safety crews in Louisville, Kentucky performed hundreds of water rescues today, and Mayor Greg Fisher says there was a fire, too.
Thankfully, there are no injuries or fatalities that we know about at this point, and there's none that are being reported or any rumors of them. The fire occurred in Building 6 there, which is a warehouse storage facility.
Wall Street is closed for Good Friday, but there was a jobs report that was disappointing. Just 126,000 new jobs added last month. I'm Evan Haining.
All you know is the phones aren't ringing and you're not getting enough new customers to grow your business. That makes marketing your business online even more crucial. But where do you start? Who can you turn to for sound advice on implementing a marketing program that works? You need YP. YP is the largest marketing agency for small business in America. Starting as the Yellow Pages over 100 years ago, YP powers local businesses with marketing services ranging from web design to search engine marketing. You're the expert in your business, but you don't have to be the expert in online marketing. YP can do that. And they're giving you a free online business listing, an essential first step to having customers find you. 80 million potential customers visit YP.com and the YP app each month. And if you're not there, they can't find you. Discover the power that is YP. Claim your free listing and have customers find your business today. Visit myfreeyp.com. myfreeyp.com. myfreeyp.com.
Listening to the great news and advice from Money Radio is easier than ever with many choices. Log on to moneyradio1510.com to find all the options.
Hi, Joe Capitano here, Senior Vice President with Homeowners Financial Group. I'm a human being, not a machine. Do you get embarrassed easily? I mean, if you were the only one who forgot to bring the gift to the holiday party, would that embarrass you? Well, what if you couldn't afford your dream home, your first home, your last home? What if your loan was denied? Now that would be embarrassing. Well, I don't want you to be embarrassed. That's why I listen to you, and I use my many years of experience to help you realize your dreams, help you find the loan and the financing you need. See, a machine, a computer, a website doesn't care if you're embarrassed. It takes a human being like me. Call me, Joe Capitano, 480-305-8545, 480-305-8545, or just go to joeloans.com. Bank number 090-6222, MLS number 9826, Equal Housing Lender. That's 480-305-8545 or joeloans.com.
Your time is too valuable to be wasted in a doctor's waiting room. Consolari Personal Physician Services offers a completely unique approach to the traditional business model of the medical practice. Board-certified internal medicine Dr. Carrie Bordinko only works with a limited number of patients. Why? Because she's going to know you on a personal level and understand your needs and unique health concerns. Imagine seeing your physician on your schedule whenever you want. As medicine has advanced, the doctor-patient relationship has declined. At Consolari, we've decided to change that. Don't tie yourself to a single medical institution or a large network of doctors where you quickly become a faceless patient number in the crowd. Go to consolarimd.com and schedule your free initial consultation. That's consolarimd.com. Our dedication to you and your health is what will always set us apart from any other healthcare provider. That is the Consolari difference. We put healthcare back in your hands.
Kubota, driven by perfectionists. Get some perfection in your world with compact tractors, zero-turn mowers, and diesel utility vehicles from Kubota. Find your local Kubota dealer at Kubota.com.
I'm Jennifer Kushinko with Your Money Now. With the exception of those trading index futures, investors will have to remain patient through the long weekend before making any moves in reaction to today's March employment report. That's because exchanges are closed today in observance of Good Friday. Since 1980, there have been 11 occasions when the March jobs report was released on Good Friday, with the two most recent instances in 2012 and 2010. Although the weather's just beginning to turn warm, it's already time to think about summer camp for your kids. With early enrollment underway at most camps, check now for deals on sibling discounts or referrals. If your child is a Scout member, take advantage of price deals at Boy and Girl Scout camps. Spotify and Etsy are out. Oscar, Benny, and Lulu are in. Startup tech companies are now going for names that sound like your human friends rather than something techie. Oscar is a web-based New York health insurance company. Alfred is a Boston firm that provides errand running services. That's Your Money Now.
Contracts that never end. Infuriating customer service. Rate plans that make your head explode. The old rules of wireless have never really worked, especially for business. T-Mobile has sent those rules to the shredder. Our Simple Choice plan delivers clear, straightforward rates. No haggling and no begging required. Now our best price is the only price. And we'll lock in your rates without locking you into a contract. It's the uncontract. We make the guarantees, and you keep all the freedom. And your T-Mobile business account comes with 24/7 support from a dedicated business account team at no extra charge. Officially putting an end to DIY wireless. T-Mobile is changing the way business does wireless. Switch today at T-Mobile.com/business.
Qualifying service but no long-term contract required. Rate lock applies to the Simple Choice plan. Unlimited high-speed data pricing good for at least 2 years. High-speed data allotments price locked at speeds available at time of activation up to 42 megabits per second. See a T-Mobile store for offer details.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. My name is Bob Roth, and we're coming at you on April the 3rd. It is Good Friday, getting ready for a big weekend. This is our third segment on our show today, and I've got Lori Nisson in the studio from Banner Sun Health Research Institute, and we're talking about dementia and Alzheimer's. And if you missed the first two segments, you can catch them right up on our website at cypresshomecare.com. Click on the radio button, and you can catch the first two segments, and you'll catch these two as well. So, when we left off, Lori, we were talking about a lot of the challenges that families deal with. And this is something that we subscribe to so well at Cypress, and ever since we were created back 21 years ago, we were intending to be a resource for families, mainly to be respite for those families, because when my brothers and I were caregivers for my mom, we didn't have home care companies. And it would have been really nice to have somebody give us the relief that we so desperately needed. And I got to say, and I see this in my business today, and so many of employer-based home care agencies are dealing with this, and you see it every day, is the family members, especially this era, has taken the oath of sickness and health. This is one of the greatest generations that ever lived, and really it shaped our economy and our society as we know it. They take it literally, and they feel like they can do it themselves. And I'm talking about the spouses that are caring for a wife caring for a husband, and there's a lot of stress that goes along with that, Lori. And I've shared with our listening audience here on this radio show that statistically, 65 and older that are caring for one another, the caregiver has a 63% mortality rate versus the care recipient because of that stress. And, I want you to share with our listening audience that caregiver stress and where can they go for resources. You talked a little bit about support groups. You talked about home care agencies, but they can't do this alone. And a lot of these caregivers, and I'm talking about the adult children, are in that sandwich generation. So now not only are they caring for their own children, but they're caring for mom and dad who present dementia-like symptoms or possibly Alzheimer's.
Absolutely. And, these are really difficult diseases to navigate. I mean, you have somebody who is a caregiver, as you said, for their children. Maybe they're working full-time, and then they're also looking out for their dad who, was widowed a few years ago and is living by himself. And it's a very tough job. I mean, there is not a harder job than caregiving. And then providing care to somebody with dementia, particularly somebody who lacks awareness and insight into their disease process, can be incredibly stressful. And so that's why, really getting a clear diagnosis is important, but also finding ways to get support along the journey is critical, because doing it alone is creates a lot of loneliness. It creates a lot of stress. Caregivers are much more susceptible to, as you were saying, health problems themselves, as well as, overloading stress and even clinical depression. And so caregiving is a wonderful gift that you can give to a family member, but you also really need respite. You need some breaks. You need support groups to help validate what you're going through. All those feelings that you're having are, very normal and very real. You need, social workers to help you with resources and counseling. At Banner Sun Health and at Banner Alzheimer's Institute, we provide a lot of free classes to the community on topics, related to kind of helping you where you're at in coping with the different stages of the disease.
And I'll share with our listening audience, we have a lot of families that seek help and assistance from both Banner Sun Health Research Institute as well as Banner Alzheimer's Institute, and the response is amazing. I mean, the support groups are incredible. The new models of care that they are delivering to them to, how should I say, put new tools in their tool belt to help them cope with a loved one that is afflicted with this disease. The resources that they give them are invaluable. And I want to, just give out to our listening audience how they could maybe reach you, Lori, or other people at the Banner Sun Health Research Institute as well as the Banner Alzheimer's Institute.
Yeah, absolutely. We have, physicians who can give a clear diagnosis, as well as social workers and other team members who can help support people through the process. At Banner Sun Health Research Institute, we deal with people who have memory disorders and their families, as well as people with movement disorders like Parkinson's disease and their families as well. And we provide, support groups, we provide classes. At Banner Alzheimer's Institute, we also have family and community services that help round out that level of care. Family and community services is a model that was developed by Banner Alzheimer's Institute and brought over to Banner Sun Health Research Institute last year because we really realized that a diagnosis and the clinical and the medical care is just one part of what people need in order to manage the disease process effectively and learn strategies. And so people can contact Banner Sun Health Research Institute in the West Valley if they're interested in getting a clear diagnosis or attending any of our free classes, at our main number, which is 623-832-6530. And then also Banner Alzheimer's Institute, which is downtown, is available as well.
602-839-6900. And you can find both of them online. The Banner Sun Health Research Institute is bannershri.org, and Banner Alzheimer's Institute is banneralz.org. And Lori, I want you to share with our audience, just so that they can gain some perspective on your work and the stuff that you are doing over at Banner Sun Health Research Institute. And, you and I talked about it before we even started the show, examples of people that come to see you. Because when they come to see you, they've gotten that diagnosis. Give our listening audience an example of when someone gets that diagnosis, when they're sitting down with you, some of the emotions that they are dealing with.
Well, I think, the person with dementia, at times, I like to say out of 10 people that get a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease and come into my office, 2 of those people look me in the eye and they say, Dr. So-and-so gave me a diagnosis and I'm just devastated. I'm very sad. I'm very angry. I'm grieving. I'm upset. And we can process that. And then the other 8 out of 10 have that lack of awareness, that lack of insight, as I mentioned earlier, and they walk in my office and they say, I don't know what I'm doing here. He's the one with the problem, and they're pointing at their spouse. And so we really want to handle those situations delicately, and that's where family and community services can come in and really help support the person with dementia, but sometimes more importantly, that care partner who really just lacks those tools and strategies to be able to manage effectively these really challenging situations. And once they get those tools, that level of stress really declines. And so they're able to function better and provide care for the person who needs it, but also get support and strategies for themselves to help sustain them through the journey.
And helping them with coping with it. And I'm talking about the person with the disease, too. I mean, because they're, like you said, they're in denial.
Absolutely. If they're aware of the disease, we can help them process. If they aren't aware, if they say things, well, I do have a memory problem, then we use that language. We try to respect the person where they are and work with them where they are in the disease process.
I love how you said that, where they are in that disease process, and respect them and communicate with them at that same level.
Absolutely.
That's really, really important. Lori, we're coming up on a break. I can't believe it. We're 3 down, and we got 1 more to go. We've got so much more to cover. I don't know if we can get it done in 1, But it is a Good Friday today here at Money Radio Studios. I've got Lori Nisson in the studio from Banner Sun Health Research Institute. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. We're going to talk to you a little bit more about Alzheimer's and dementia, and we're going to talk about the resources that are available, these incredible resources that are right here in the Valley. We'll be right back.
Retire and stay retired, safe, smart, and secure. How can you potentially avoid future losses in the stock market like the ones we've experienced in 2000, 2001, 2002, and 2008? Call Anil Vanzarani and Secured Financial Solutions at 800-957-5604, extension 200, and learn about active money managers that had positive returns in those years. Listen to Anil Vanzarani on the Money Radio Show every Tuesday at 1 p.m. and Thursdays at 9 a.m. to learn about the concept of the principal protected low-cost new generation annuity and why it's superior in most cases than the high-risk, high-fee variable annuity and the obsolete hybrid income annuity. Call Anil Vanzarani and Secured Financial Solutions at 800-957-5604, extension 200, to set up your complimentary strategy session. Or go online at www.theripa.com. How strong and stable are the vital signs of your financial institution? Learn about the Comdex rating score of your insurance company that your banker, broker, and insurance agent may not want you to know. Listen to Anil Vanzarani and On the Money every Tuesday at 1 p.m. and Thursdays at 9 a.m. or give him a call at 800-957-5604, extension 200, to set up your complimentary strategy session today. You can also go online to www.theripa.com. That's THERIPA.com. Let Anil help you set up your secure retirement today. Don't wait. Call 800-957-5604, extension 200. Retire and stay retired. Safe, smart, and secure. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Read the prospectus for risk, fees, and charges. Investment advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Kubota, driven by perfectionists. Get some perfection in your world with compact tractors, zero-turn mowers, and diesel utility vehicles from Kubota. Find your local Kubota dealer at Kubota.com.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. We're coming at you on a Good Friday. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you, and I've got Lori Nisson in the house. She's from Banner Sun Health Research Institute, and we're on our fourth segment, and I want to get as much as we can in, but if you missed the first three, you can go up to CypressHomeCare.com, and you can listen to the first three segments, and you can catch this fourth one on live, or you can catch it right up there on our website. So speaking of websites, and we were talking about resources, and we're really all about resources. That's the premise of our show. Our show is to give our listening audience resources that they can go to assist their loved ones or even themselves to age successfully. And we're all about the aging adult community and how we can age successfully. And with that being said, you have a number of resources. I want to give out phone numbers again because it's really important for our listening audience. If you've got a loved one that is dealing with some dementias, or what you think there are dementias or Alzheimer's, maybe even has gotten a diagnosis, they should be calling the Banner Sun Health Research Institute if you're on the West Valley side at 623-832-6530. And if you're in Phoenix or even on the East Valley, North Scottsdale, please call the Banner Alzheimer's Institute at 602-839-6900. So I want to talk more about resources because you were telling me that you guys have webinars and stuff like that. So
yeah, absolutely. We offer a lot of live classes at both of our locations that are free to anybody in the community. Things like Compass, which is when you get a new diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease and you're a care partner, to learn more about the stages of the disease and how to learn practical strategies to kind of keep you on track. We have everything from communication tips to avoid arguments in those tough situations that I was mentioning earlier, how to manage things like problem behaviors, and when you get a new diagnosis, planning ahead. How do you plan ahead for care that you might need in the future? How do you make sure you get your advance directives in place while the person with dementia is still able to maybe give informed consent and update those documents?
So important. It really is.
And so we offer a lot of those classes at our 2 locations, but we recognize that a lot of people are caregiving, they're working, they live out of town, they can't necessarily come to our classes. And so our new program this year is called Dementia Dialogues, and it was created by the Family and Community Services team at Banner Alzheimer's Institute and myself at Banner Sun Health Research Institute to really allow people an opportunity to learn more about the various issues that present related to a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or other dementias. And so we started that series, and we do it once a month on the 3rd Wednesday of the month from noon to 1. But like your show, Bob, we also offer people the opportunity to listen to recorded sessions if they missed one or if they can't actually be part of the webinar live on banneralz.org, BANNERALZ.org, which is our Banner Alzheimer's Institute website. You can actually look at any of the programs we've done thus far or log in and listen. Our next program is on April 15th. Alzheimer's medications, what they are, what they aren't, and what you need to know. And then we have our nurse practitioner, Michelle Gregatis, who is going to be leading that discussion.
And you can find it at banneralz.org, but you want to look under Dementia Dialogues, right?
Absolutely. That's the name of the program, which is our webinar series that started in January.
That's fantastic. That really is fantastic. That we are so fortunate living in this community to have resources like Banner Sun Health Research Institute as well as Banner Alzheimer's Institute right here in our backyard. Lori, we've been talking about caregiving. Cypress is an employer-based model for 21 years here in the Valley. We're celebrating our 21st year here in April. It's hard to believe it's April 3rd. Thank you very much. And, one of the things that we had happen this week is we have got a bill. And we've been working really diligently to have some kind of regulation or licensure. When we started 21 years ago, there were less than 10 companies out there. And now there's over 700. And with that, it doesn't mean that all of them are bad, because there are some really good employer-based models that are out there. But there's also some bad actors out there that are in this for different reasons. And without any type of oversight, care oversight, regulation, a lot of these guys can go under the radar and really wreak havoc on a lot of our aging adults that are in our community and have. And I come in a lot of times and pick up the pieces.
Well, and absolutely, I think that's really important, Bob, because, our aging older adults, particularly ones with dementia, are highly vulnerable. And so we really need to make sure that we have standards for care partners and caregivers to be able to provide care in a trusting environment.
We've been at this for 8 years, and we had it pass through the Senate. The bill was sponsored by Senator Nancy Bartow and a couple of her colleagues and went through to the House, came back to the Senate, went for the 3rd read. I think it was on Monday or Tuesday, and it is now over at the governor's office awaiting his signature. So it's exciting. It really is. The regulation, the premise behind what we're looking for is really disclosure. And I want our listening audience to hear this, is that these caregiving entities have to disclose to you whether these are employees or they're contractors, whether they're covered by insurance, are they paying taxes, is there care oversight, is there training? It's kind of like when you buy an automobile and you see that little white sheet that's in that window that says exactly how many miles per gallon, what's the size of the engine. So it does require a little bit of work on the care recipient's part, but we're doing a great job of getting the message out there. Our hope is that this gets signed into law. Hopefully, we don't know anything as of yet today, but it may be today. If not today, next week. We know Congress session is ending very, very shortly. And with that, we're going to have the assistance from AARP as well as the Attorney General's office to help spread the word and get some PSAs out there so that our aging adult community can know this. And I share this with you, Lori, because I know that Both Banners on Health and Banner Alzheimer's Institute refer to families' home care agencies. And I want our listening audience to know that there is now potentially, and I'll probably tell you next week once it's signed into law, a requirement by these agencies to disclose to the consumer what kind of care they're receiving so that there aren't any surprises, because today there are a lot of surprises. So it's our first step. But we're excited, and I will tell you, and I've shared with our listening audience, nearly half of my clients, and I would say nearly half of many of my other brothers and sisters out there that are running caregiving agencies have dementia or Alzheimer's, have some kind of memory care issue. And like you said, they are very vulnerable. Very, very vulnerable. So, I wanted to share our listening audience about that because, the care model is so important, as we've talked about here earlier on the show, that you don't have to do this alone. You can get help, and try to get help from family members first, if friends can pitch in. But if they can't, an employer-based model like Cypress HomeCare Solutions, we focus in on doing a lot of dementia and Alzheimer's training, can assist those families in caring for a loved one. We're wrapping up our episode here, Lori. It's hard to believe it, but I want to give you the opportunity to leave some lasting impressions on our listening audience, and I definitely want to have you back.
Excellent. Yeah, I would just say when you're dealing with a loved one who has a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or another dementia and they really lack awareness into their disease, to try to shift your approach, try to be empathic, focus more on their strengths, get support for yourself as a care partner, and get the right tools and education you need to do a better job of caregiving while you're also accessing resources for respite.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. You got anything planned for this weekend? We got Easter. We got Passover tonight starts.
And the Final Four.
And the Final Four. How about it? 3 of the 4 teams are number 1. I think this may be a first, but, for me, I'm kind of pushing for the underdog. Michigan State? I think you're from Michigan, right?
Nope. Chicago.
Chicago. All right, neighboring state. But do you have a favorite?
I don't. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens on Saturday and then on Monday. So you're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. And Lori Nisson, thank you so much for joining us today. Make it a good Friday.
Thanks for having me, Bob.
I'd love to have you back. Make it a great day and a great weekend.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress HomeCare Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit CypressHomeCare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
Hi, I'm Rick Kidder, President and CEO of the Scottsdale Area Chamber of Commerce, and I would like you to tune in to Chamber Chat. It'll be on Friday mornings at 9 a.m., right here on Money Radio 1510 AM, 99.3 FM. We're excited to have with us political leaders, business leaders, all of the people who are responsible for building a vibrant and prosperous economy in this incredible city that is Scottsdale. So join me, Rick Kidder, on Friday mornings at 9 a.m. right here on Money Radio.
Money Radio 1510
and 99.3 FM.
Is KFNN Mesa Phoenix and K257CD Phoenix. Money flows in, money flows out. Keep yours moving in the right direction by staying right here with us every day. When the market closed for the week yesterday, the Dow was up 65, the Nasdaq up 7, and the S&P 500 was also up 7.
Just ahead, Money Radio brings you the latest news, business news, Arizona business news, the weather and traffic. And it all starts right